Hello, Dr. Gentry. As you know, I'm Patty Forsman. I'm in your Philosophy 213 H02 class for communicating moral issues. So, this is my abortion speech based upon rights. So, to start, I'd like to start by stating my overall general stance on abortion. So, I am pro life, but I understand the world is not a perfect place, so I break it down more into circumstances in which I find abortion acceptable versus non acceptable. So, to start, I think it's important to establish what rights are for people and how to morally make decisions. So, according to Disputed Moral Issues by Mark Timmons, this is where I drew many of my information. So, to start, I believe in the Jeffersonian moral rights, so such as this would be life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I find those to be three of the main human rights, and which we break off many other rights from those, like main categories. And so, in addition to this book, I found that an action is only moral if A, one does not violate moral rights of others, and B, in cases where rights are in conflict, one's actions must be among the best ways to protect the most rights at case in hand. So, this is why sometimes I find it okay to violate fetuses' right to life because there's many moral rights being weighed at hand in many circumstances. So it's not just a black and white pro life versus pro choice picture. There's more to it than just that. And so, in addition to this, it's important to establish the difference between rights infringement and rights violations. So, rights infringement is an action that is not morally wrong given the circumstance, and a rights violation is an action that is just morally wrong. Okay. So, now it's also developed some of the important pregnancy milestones in the way that I break down my views on abortion. So, I spoke with a registered nurse who works as a maternal fetal medicine coordinator at Monmouth Medical Center. So, she too has always been very conservative and she is very pro life. But as working with her experience in the maternal fetal medicine coordinator profession, she has developed many pro choice exceptions, and she helped me understand some of hers and helped me draw conclusions to some of my own rights or my belief in the rights of abortion. So, to start, a zygote is considered, so from conception to 2 weeks on, the child is considered a zygote. At this point, I do not consider it living, and I find it okay for any circumstance, for like plan B, for example, how people take pills like the day after to make sure that they do not get pregnant. I find that acceptable. So from 2 to 8 weeks, it is considered an embryo. So this is when the child begins developing its heart, its head, its major body systems, and all that stuff. But so important to note here, at 5 weeks, embryo develops a heartbeat, in which I find embryo to be alive. So generally, I say after 5 weeks, no abortion, but now I also get into more circumstances after this in which I find after 5 weeks, it is okay to abort a child. And so from 8 weeks on, it is considered a fetus. So this is 8 weeks until pregnancy or until giving birth. And so important milestones to note within the fetus category is at 24 weeks, a child is viable. So that means that its lungs are mature enough. It has developed body parts. And so, for the most part, in many cases, there's a way to, in like problems with mothers, there's many ways to have the child delivered safely without it dying. But keep in mind, there is still high chances of disabilities because of premature births, even at 24 weeks. And after 24 weeks, it's also very dangerous for a mother to have an abortion. So even if the child is having problems, sometimes it's very important to keep in mind that from 24 weeks on, a baby has developed bones and stuff like that. So it's not just as simple as aborting the child. Like, you have to the mother must deliver the child even if she wants to abort it from 24 weeks on. So now it's time to get into the case by cases and develop and state why I agree with certain of the cases, why I disagree with them. So when it comes to therapeutic reasons, this is relating to life and health of the pregnant woman. I agree with the choice of abortion because the right to life of the mother is at stake, and the right to life of the child is at stake, and we must protect as many possible rights as we have to protect as many possible rights. So therefore, I find it okay if a mother chooses to abort the child, as it's a right to life versus right to life situation. The next reason is eugenic, which I also agree with, and this is when there's fetal abnormalities and life-threatening anomalies. So I agree with this because it affects the right to pursuit of happiness for the child, as if there's many children can be born without lungs, without spine, without kidneys. And so say even at 20 weeks, if a mother's water broke at 20 weeks and she went to go deliver the child, there's an 80% chance that that child will have brain damage because its lungs aren't developed enough. So therefore, it could develop other horrible diseases such as cerebral palsy, and will be in tortuous pain throughout its entire life. So that's why I agree with that one. The next reason is humanitarian, and so this comes from incest and rape, and I agree with this because the mother's right to pursuit of happiness has been completely violated, so therefore, weighing out the different rights, I find it morally acceptable for the decision of the mother. And so now, socioeconomic, this one, in some cases I agree, in some cases I don't. For the most part, I disagree with women aborting children for socioeconomic reasons. Now, this, for the most part, if a mother is giving birth to a disability child and she comes from very poor income and stuff like that, then I find that that scenario is okay because the child has a disability, so it's going to affect its pursuit of happiness, and the mother might not have the funds to physically fund for the helping of the child. So therefore, I find that okay. But in cases like this, where if it's a 16 or 17-year-old daughter or woman who has a pregnancy, she took the chance of getting pregnant, even if she used birth control. For example, condoms are only 82% effective, and prescription, such as many girls take the pill, it's only 86% effective. So even with birth control, everybody having sex is taking the chance of having a child. So therefore, you should not just put up a child for. You should not have an abortion. Worst comes to worst, they could always put the child up for adoption. The other reason I disagree with is personal reasons. So this is also very similar, and this is career/inconvenience. So I find in every single one of those scenarios, the right to life outweighs the pursuit of happiness in this case greatly. It's simply not fair to the child that you had sex and you decide you do not want to keep it after, besides the other reasons I said I agree with. So, thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope you have a very nice day.